This video is going to walk you through the Access Query Practice Part 1 assignment that is part of the BPC110 class. I have already downloaded the instructions in the start file, and I want to go through a best practice in terms of how to open these database files. You're going to see that I'm going to double click the instruction file, and that opens up the instructions, no problem. However, you do not want to follow the same practice for any database file. Do not double click a database file to open it. That's what these instructions are telling you right here. Instead, to open this file, you want to go ahead and open up Access and then open the file from within. Just click Open, Browse, and navigate to where you save the file. In this case, I have it in my downloads, so I'm going to go ahead and open it there. All right. If you double click the file, what happens is it's going to think, Windows will think the file is open, but actually it's not. And you're going to get the record locking file that opens along with it, but you won't actually see the database. So it's a bug inside Windows. It's not always consistent. You might say, oh, I've double clicked the file and it worked. It might work and it might not. So if you find yourself double clicking an Access file and not seeing anything that happens, you're going to have to restart the computer. That will break this link and allow you to open the database properly. All right, the next step is to save the database with your name, first and last name. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save it in the same place that I was in my downloads. And I'm just going to go ahead and type my first and last name. Remember, you do not have to type the file extension, as Access will go ahead and add that for you. I click Save, and then Access locks down the database in this case, or it does it in Word and Excel and PowerPoint as well. So when you see this enable content, Access is saying, hey, this is locked down. There could be some viruses or some bad data in here. Are you sure you know where it came from? Access is giving you a chance to pause and reflect about where you downloaded the file. This is a school file. There should be no issues with it. So go ahead and click that enable content. You have to enable the content in order to have access to all the tools in the database. All right, I'm going to go ahead and dock my two windows side by side. I am on a Windows 11 machine, so in order to do that, I can actually float over the maximize button, and I can pick the pattern I want all my windows to appear. I just want them to be left and right, so I'm going to go ahead and pick this guy, and then I'm going to go ahead and pick the database, and that docks the two programs side by side. I can adjust the width if I want to, make this a little bit smaller, make Access a little bit bigger, and give me more room to work. So I have my database open. It's got two tables inside of it. This navigation pane is very wide, so I'm going to actually just resize the navigation pane by dragging the line. There we go. I can have a little bit more room. All right, the next piece is to sort the database by object type. So we can resort how the objects appear in the database. So you just click this drop-down button, and you can change how you look at the database. I like object type because when we do that, it groups all objects together. So all tables will be listed together, and all queries, forms, reports, so on and so forth. As you build the database, the objects will be grouped together. All right, moving on. The next step says open the donations table and switch to design view. So I'm going to go ahead and double click the donations table, and that opens it in datasheet view, the front view of this donations table. If I want to switch it and look at the back side, how it's structured, that's design view. And to do that, I can come right up here to the home ribbon under view and switch to design view. Now I'm going to show you another way to do that. I'm going to close this table. I did not make any changes to it. Another way to open an object in design view is just to right click it and choose design view, and you go straight into design view. Either one is acceptable. All right, we're going to change the order of how this information looks. We want to make, in this case, we want to move donor first name above club affiliation. So what I can do is I can drag and drop these fields in different orders. So I can click to the left of donor first name in this selector area, and that selects the entire field. And then I'll just place my cursor in that gray box, and I will left click, hold, and drag up. And where you see the black line, that's where it's going to drop the field. And in this case, I want it to be above club affiliation. So I let go, and you can see it reorders that. All right, the next one is to move donor last name below donor first name. So we use the same process, select the field, and then I click, hold, and drag up and drop donor last name below first name. All right, the next step in terms of modifying how this table looks is to increase the decimal places to 2 for the donation field in the field properties window. So what I want to do is I can click anywhere on the donation field. I can click on its name or the data type. It doesn't matter. And then down here in the field properties where it says decimal places, I can change the 0 to a 2. I can press the tab key and that sets that change. All right, switch to datasheet view and save changes when prompted. So I'm going to go ahead and click the view button in the upper left corner, switch to datasheet view. And because we changed how the table looks, the formatting, we do need to save those changes. So we're going to click yes, and we switch to datasheet view. The last step says apply best fit to the table. So you're going to find this statement in a lot of the custom assignments, just in case you can't see all the information. Really, if, for example, if we think about Excel, when we couldn't see maybe all the information, maybe it looks something like this, where you don't see all the information. We want to make sure to widen all of the fields. I'm going to go ahead and just change these just a little bit so to kind of hit home how this example works. So what you can do is you can select all the records in the table by clicking the little gray triangle in the upper left corner. That's the select table button. And then to just adjust the widths of all the columns, you can come up here to the records panel and then click the more button, click the option button next to more, go to field width and choose best fit. And you can see that it opens up all the fields so we can see all the information inside of them. All right, I'm going to save my table and I'm going to close it. All right, moving on to the next step. All right, the next part, the big part of this assignment is creating queries. We have two tables here. We have a club members. I'm going to open this up. There are 15 records, so there are 15 members that belong to the club. You can kind of think of, they're students actually, and then there are donations. Think about these like scholarships, who the donations were awarded to, right? And so we're going to connect these two tables together so that we can pull information from them at the same time and answer some different questions. So I'm showing you what these look like right now, and then I'm going to show you again what it looks like after we connect them. So you can see in the club members table I have 15 records, and in the donations table I have 30 records. In the club members table I also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields, 15 records. In the donations table, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields and 30 records. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close those. So what we're going to do is we're going to join these two tables together. So I'm going to run through these steps. It says go to the database tools and click the relationship button. So I go to database tools and I click the giant relationship button. Depending on the version of Access you have, you'll either have this pane open on the right, or you might have a floating window if you're using an older version of Access that allows you to add the tables to the relationship window. So I can double click this club members, or I can click, hold, and drag. I'll double click this one. It shows you how you add the tables to the window. I can expand this so I can see all the field names. If for some reason you got click happy or whatever and you added 2 of them to the table, we don't need two of them, excuse me, to the relationship window, you can remove it by clicking on it, right click and choose hide table, and that'll just remove it. All right, so I've got the two tables. I'm going to link them together through a common field. That's what the instructions over here are saying, is to create a one-to-many relationship using a common field of student ID. You can see student ID appears in both of them. And so to join them, all you have to do is click on one of the field names, student ID, and drag and drop it on top of its counterpart in the donations table, and then you get this edit relationship window. I'm going to go ahead and do it again and hit cancel. So I want to connect student ID to student ID. It doesn't matter which direction you drag the two fields. So you can see I'm dragging from the donations table this time, and I'm dropping it on top of student ID. When I do that, it's showing me that I'm matching these two fields together. In order to create the one-to-many relationship, you have to click the Enforce Referential Integrity. That actually creates the relationship, and what it's saying is that one student can have many donations, but I cannot give a student or a club member a donation until they've actually been entered into the database. That is what this Enforcing Referential Integrity is saying. It's saying, hey, you can't give donations to club members until a club member actually exists in the database. go ahead and choose both cascade options. What that means is as I make changes to one table, whatever those changes are, those connections will be ripple through all the other tables it's connected to. I'm going to click create, and you'll see you have the one-to-many relationship. You can drag these around, position them how you want to position them. All right. If I wanted to get back into that relationship, I can always double click this join line, and it opens up that relationship window. I'm going to hit cancel. If I click that join line and I press delete, sure, do you want a permanent delete? Yes. I'm going to show you a little bit of extra learning that goes beyond the assignment here. So what happens if you make a mistake? I'm going to show you what it looks like if you make a mistake. I'm going to drag student ID, but let's say I'm not paying careful attention and I don't give it to its counterpart. Remember, this is the primary key, and it's matching field name in the other table is called the foreign key. But let's say I'm not paying attention. Maybe I drop it on top of donation without thinking. I could still create a relationship, but it's not the relationship I'm looking for. In this class, we only focus on one-to-many relationships. So I can quickly change that right here. I can see this is student ID. This one is not student ID. So to change it, I can actually click this drop down and choose student ID and create the correct relationship. All right, I'm going to check all three boxes. We've already explained that. Click create. And we have our join line, and we have now joined these two tables together through the primary key in the club members table and the student ID, which is the foreign key in the donations table. All right. Let's see. So we're all the way down here to step 4. So a lot of times when database developers are working with a client and they're designing a database, what they'll do is they'll create these relationships and these tables, and they will actually print out this report and show the client how the tables are related. So let's go ahead and create a relationship report. All we're going to do is in this relationship design window, you're just going to click this relationship report button, and boom, you can see it made another object that is open right here. It has the little green tab that lets you know it's a report. We're just going to save the report with the name relationship report. So I can go ahead and come up here to my quick access ribbon and I can click save, or I can right click and choose save. And that's a really long name, and Access doesn't like the really long names. So we're going to call it relationship report. We're just going to give it a nice generic name. We've now created the report. We've saved in the database, and you can see it appears over here in the navigation panel, and it's under a report heading. It's going to group all the reports together. All right, we're going to close the report, and we're going to close the relationship window. So now what you're going to do is you're going to open the club members table, and you can actually see in the tables how they're connected. So now I'm going to click club members, and all of a sudden you should be like, hey, these little pluses weren't there before. So if I were to expand one of them, I'll expand this third one for Jessica Lee, you can see that now Jessica is connected to these 3 donations from the donations table because we created that relationship. They're now linked together. If you expand any others, you can see this person right here, Sandra, she has 3 donations attached to her. Let's see what this one is. Kevin has no donations attached to him. Let's see this guy. This guy has no, Amber, she has no donations attached to her. Okay, and so that is showing you now how these 2 tables are connected. And when you do expand this piece right here, the donation table, that's called the sub data sheet or the sub record. Okay, all right, we're going to close this, and we're moving on to building the queries. So over here on the right in the instruction file, you're going to see some rules that we have come up with to help our students build queries. If you follow these rules when building the queries, you'll have a much more successful outcome. So I'm going to not go through the rules right now. What I'm going to do is there are 5 queries you're going to create in this assignment. So I'm going to break down the rules when I create the first query. I know what the rules are, and it's going to take you through the steps of how to build the query. So let's jump down here and read what the first query is. A query is always presented as a question. So it's going to be asking you to get some type of information out of the database. You're going to extract a subset of information out of the database. All right, so let's read the question. The first query says, what are the club member last name, club member first name, and club affiliation for all club members with a last name of King, sorted in ascending order by club affiliation. Okay, that's a lot of information coming at you. So the hope is that you maybe print out this set of instructions and use a pencil or a pen to kind of highlight the key parts. So the first thing, we're going to come up here to the rules. And what does it say? It says to create a query, go to choose create query design and add the tables. Add both tables or all tables to the design window. So we're going to go over here. We're going to go to create query design. And we're going to add both tables to the window. I can double click or I can drag. And when I do that, you can see that one-to-many relationship appears. Okay, and I don't have to have this piece open, so I can close it. It says close the add table dialog. The next step says add all the fields needed to build the query to the design grid at the bottom of the screen. What fields from these two tables do we need to answer the question? So this is where you want to look through the query question and find out what are the fields we need. And I'll tell you what are the field club member last name, club member first name, and club affiliation. Those are all the fields that we would need to build this query. So I'm going to go through club member last name. That's going to come from the club members table. I'm going to double click last name. I like to double click and it adds it to the design grid. The next one is club member first name. I can double click it, or you can click, hold, and drag and drop it down here, and that becomes the second field. So this is where we're building our query down here in the design grid. And then the third one is club affiliation. So we look for a field name named club affiliation, and that actually happens to be in the donations table. So I'm going to double click it, and I've added the 3 fields. All right, let's go back up to the rules. So now under step 4, it says stop. After you've added all the fields, stop and ask yourself this question. Did all the fields come from both tables? Well, we know that last name and first name came from the club members table, and you can even see that right here, club member, club member. And the club affiliation came from the donation. So these fields came from both tables. If you answered yes, which we did, they did come from both tables, we run the query. We move to step 5. In the upcoming examples, we will actually practice this step right here. So in this case, both the field names came from both tables. So at this point, what I like my students to do, just run the query, execute it, mash all the pieces together and see what you get. So we're going to run it. And it gave me all the first names, all the last names, all the last names, all the first names, and then all the club affiliations. And we have 30 records here. All right. Well, we only want to know, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you, you should only have 5 records when we're done building this query. So right now I already know that I still need to do something to get the 5 records. I only want to know club member last name, first name, and club affiliation for all club members with a last name of King. All right. So I only want the ones that say King. Those are the only ones I want to appear. All right. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the design view. So I'm just going to click the design view button up here. And then to get just the ones with the last name of King, I can type some criteria in. You can see there are criteria lines under each of these fields. So in this case, I only want the last name to say King. So I actually type the word King exactly as it appears in the database. That's one of the reasons you want to run it so that you can see what the data looks like. I don't press enter. Instead, I click anywhere inside the design grid and it sets that criteria. And because King is a text, is a string, Access is going to put the double quotes around it. Okay. It also says sorted in ascending order by club affiliation. So I can sort this alphabetically. So you can see there's a sort line right here. And I want to sort it by club affiliation. So I click in the sort line under club affiliation and I choose ascending. That is A to Z. And now when I run it, you can see I have 5 records. I only have King. And you can see culinary comes before entrepreneur. C comes before E. And that's how it's alphabetical. So I've received my 5 records. I'm going to go ahead and save the query. So I'm going to just click the save icon right up here on my quick access toolbar, or you can right click and choose save. And we're going to call this King query. Right? Once we've done that, it adds the query to our navigation pane and you'll see it's the first query we're built. When you're done building the query, close it. Okay. All right. And so just running back up here to the instructions, we did go back to Designville and we added the query. We added the criteria to start building the query. So these are the steps up here we want to follow each time we build a query. All right, let's do it for number 2. Create a query in design view that answers this question. In ascending order by club affiliation, list all clubs with a donation of $25 or $30. All right, so what's the first step? We'll go back up here. Step 1 says choose create, query design. It says add both tables to the window, club members, donations. Oops, did it in the other order. It's okay. It doesn't matter which order it's in. It's not going to affect the outcome of your results, but I'm going to go ahead and do it order it's listed. And then the next step says add all the fields needed to build this query. All right, so in query 2, what fields do we need? Well, we need club affiliation and we need donation, right? Those are the 2 things that it's asking. It wants to know what are the club affiliations and who has a donation of $25 or $30. So I'm going to look for club affiliation. That comes out of the donations table, so I do that one first. And then I look for donation, which also comes out of the donations table. All right, let's go back up to our instructions. Stop. Did those fields come from one table or both tables? Well, in this case, it came from just one table. So in this case, we answered no. So if we only have one table, then we only need to keep that one table in this query. So I'm going to remove club members. And to remove it, I can just right click and choose remove table. If you don't do that, this step is super important. If you don't do this step, it will affect your final results. So that's why we have these steps kind of broken down to chunk out how to build queries step by step and help guide the student through success. All right, let's continue to read. All right, so in ascending order by club affiliation, all right, I can do that. That's A to Z. So in the sort line under club affiliation, I could choose ascending. List all clubs with a donation of $25 or $30. Now, I actually skipped a step. The next step says run the query. All right. In fact, I'm going to remove my sort just so I can follow the instructions. So I'm going to run the query just to see what I have, right? Run it. All right, I've got 30 records, and we know that we're supposed to get 11. Okay, that's what's in the answer key. All right, so I only want to bring back all the donations where it says it's $25 like this guy, or $30 like this one. So I need to go into the donation field, this field here in design view, and somehow extract all of the records that say a 25 or a 30. That's exactly what I'm asking, 25 or 30. Okay, so I'm going to go back to design view. And so under club affiliation, we'll go ahead and put that sort in because we did that before. That's super easy. And then in the criteria line, you're going to click under donation. And so there's a set of reserved keywords that you can use in Access to help you build these queries. In this case, or is going to be one of them. So we can type 25 or 30 right down here in the criteria line. And when I click outside it in the design grid, you will notice that that or got capitalized, okay? That is because that is reserved language. It's actually called SQL, and that is the reserved programming language for Access, or actually for databases in general. And so what's happening is you're telling Access, I find everything that has a 25 in this field or a 30 and display it. So let's just run it and see what happens. You can see I have 11 records. That's how many I'm supposed to get. And you can see that it's only the ones that say 25 or 30. Okay. So in this case, going back to design view, either one of these have to be true. It either has to have a 25 or a 30 in the donation field in order for it to display the record. Okay. I'm going to run it again. We have the 11 and I'm going to save it. So I'll just right click and choose save. And we're going to call this donation query. All right. You'll see it added another query right here. This is why I like sorting the sorting the database by object type, because it makes it really easy to see all the different objects. And I'm going to close this guy right here. All right. Query number 3. Let's read it. In ascending order by donor last name, and then donation amount, so that's a double sort. What is the last name and first name of donors who gave donations that are $25 or more? Hint, you will need to use a comparison operator for that. All right, I'm just going to open up a little notepad file and I'm going to type some stuff in, and you guys can pause the video and write this down. So there's special operators that you can use in Access we talked about. We have or, and, between, null. We have less than, greater than, equal, equal. Okay, and so all of these, and then one special one called the wild card. That's the asterisk. Okay, so this is less than, this is greater than, this is equal, and this is the wild card. Okay, so these are reserved keywords. There are a few more, but these are the ones we're going to focus on in this class. We just used an or. We're going to use an and. You'll use a between coming up, and then null means empty. We're going to do that at the end. And then wild card means everything. All right, so pause the video at this point and write these down in your notes. You're going to use these different reserved words and characters to help you build queries. All right, I'm going to minimize that. Okay, so going back here, the comparison operator, these are the comparison operators. Less than, greater than, or equal. Those are comparison operators. Okay, so first thing is to go to Create, Query Design, and add both tables to the window. That's the first two steps of our rules, right? Okay. And then it says, next step says add all the fields you need to build the query. So in ascending order, we need donor last name, and then donation amount. And then we also want to know what is the last name and first name of donor. So that would be donor last name and donor first name, who gave donation. So donation would be another field that we need. All right. So in ascending order by donor last name and then donation amount, what is the last name and first name of donor? So I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do donor last name and then donor first name, who gave donations that are $25 or more. So we need donor last name, donor first name, and donation amount. Those are the three fields that we need to build this. And then we stop and we ask ourselves the question, did those fields come from one table or two tables? And we know they came from one table, the donations table. That's what's listed down here. So I can get rid of the club members table. I don't need that for this query. All right. The next step is for us to run the query and just look at the data. Okay. And we're going to do this one in a couple of steps. So I'm going to run it. I get 30 records. I'm supposed to get 17 when I'm done. Okay. I want to know all the donors who gave $25 or more than $25, right? So anything that says 25, 26, 27, 28, so on and so forth. Those are the ones that I want to come back. All right, so I'm going to go back to design view. And so in the donation field, in the criteria line, I need to express 25 or more. Well, if we look at the list of reserved words, I know the word or is there, but I do not see the word more. So instead of using the reserved word or, we're going to actually use a comparison operator, right? So to express that, we're going to say greater than 25. Now I'm going to make a mistake here on purpose. This is how I like to teach. So I'm just going to do greater than 25. What that's saying is more than 25. All right, greater than 25 is the same as saying more than 25. All right, I'm just going to run the query to see what happens. I'm going to run it. And I only get 8 records. I'm supposed to get 17. So I would ask you, what's missing? If you look at this, what's missing is I don't actually have any of the records that have $25 as part of it. And that is part of the criteria. It wants to know everybody who gave $25, 26, 27, 28, so on and so forth. So I have to account for the $25 in my expression. All right, I'm going to go back to design view. So to do 25 or more, it would actually read as greater than equal to 25, okay? So 25 or more is expressed as greater than equal 25. In fact, this reads as donations are greater than or equal to 25. All right, I run it. And I have 17 records. There we go. And you can see all the 25s that are included. So what you want to gather from this, what you want to make sure you pull out are those nuances of how the query is written to you. In this case, I want 25 or more. So I had to include that equal sign. All right, going back to design view, the last piece of this was doing the double sort. So we want to sort it by donor last name and then donation amount by ascending order. So donor last name under the sort line, I choose ascending here. And then under donation, I can choose ascending. And so now when I run it, I have A, B, C, D. And I can see that if I had any duplicates, these would also be sorted in numerical order. All right, I'm going to save my query as donation. Whoops. Donation 25 query. Okay, adds a third query to the query list, and I'm going to close this. We don't need it anymore. All right, 2 more to go. All right, step 4, or query 4. Create a query in Design View that answers this question. In ascending order by club member last name, list all students who do not have a phone number listed. Do not show the phone number field by hiding it. Hint, hide the phone field after you have the correct number of records returned for this query. We should get 4 records. All right, so following our rules, we go to Create, Query Design, we add both tables to the window, and then we ask ourselves, what fields do I need to build this query? So we need club member last name, and we need phone number. Nothing else is, no other fields we can pull out of that. So club member last name right here under the club members table, and phone number comes right here from club members. So now stop and ask yourself the question, did those fields come from one table or both? Well, they came from one table, the club members table. So we don't need the donations table. We're going to right click and remove that. All right, the next step in our process is to just run it. Just run it and look at the data before you type any criteria in. This is an important step. A lot of students like to skip it. They just want to try to build everything at once, run it, and then you have an error, and it makes it really hard to figure out how to solve that error. But if you break down building the query into, sequential steps, very purposeful, and looking at the data, you'll have an easier time building the query, and you'll have an easier time solving any issues that come up. All right, so I'm going to run my query, and you'll see I have 15 records, and I'm supposed to have 4. And you can even tell 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 people are missing a phone number, right? So that's what I want. I want a list of the people who don't have a phone number in my database. Go back to Design View. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the null. We're going to use the null reserved keyword to bring back all the empties. Null means nothing, okay? It means nothing. It does not mean 0. 0 is a numerical value. Null is empty. And the example I always like to tell my students is in the grade book, as a student, when you're completing work, if you earn a 0 on an assignment, that will bring your grade down. But if you have not completed the assignment yet, then the grade has not been calculated. It's empty, right? So the empty doesn't affect the final results, but a 0 will. So that's important to remember, all right? So in order to find all the phone numbers that I'm missing, all I have to do in the criteria line is type the word null. And when I click outside of it, you'll see that it actually rewrites it as is null. Is the same as equal, right? And you can see it's capitalized, so you know that, hey, I'm on the right track. I'm using keywords. I'm using SQL that is reserved for Access programming. So now it's saying, find all the phone numbers, find all the fields that are empty. That's what this is saying. Now I'm going to run it, and boom, there I go. I have the 4, but it brings back all the ones that don't have a phone number. Now, if I were going to print out this query, let's say I want to print it out and hand it to somebody to go find all the students, get their phone numbers, and fill out the list. All I really need is just the names of the people. I don't actually have to have this field showing, the phone field. It's kind of redundant because we know that they're missing. All right, so go back to Design View. So the part where it's asking you to hide the phone number field, that's what I'm talking about. We don't actually need to see this field when we run it. So to hide it, after you have the correct results, that's what I'm saying here. I have my 4 results. When I have the 4 results, right here, there's a show line. I'm going to uncheck the phone field. You can see it's still part of the query. I still have my criteria here, but now when I run it, I don't actually see the phone field. I just have the last names. And that's what I'm looking for when you want to hide a field. All right, we're going to save this query as missing phone query. All right, and then we're going to close this one. All right, and we have 4 queries now. All right, let's move on to the last one. I like this one. I think this one's a lot of fun. And again, I'm going to break it down into a couple of stages so you understand how the wildcard character works. So for this query, we're going to be using the asterisk, the actual symbol, which is the asterisk. It's called the wildcard. All right, let's read the query. In descending order by club affiliation, list all club names that have the word club in their name. Hint, you will need to use the wildcard character for this. And we're going to get 13 records when we're done. So first step, go to Create, Query Design, add both tables to the window. and then figure out what fields do I need. Well, what fields do I need? In descending order by club affiliation, list all club names that have the word club in their name. So really the only field we need is club affiliation. So I'm just going to go ahead and add club affiliation. Those are the names of the fields. Stop, ask yourself the question, did that come from one or two tables? Clearly it only came from one table, which is the donations table. So I'm going to remove the club members. All right, now I'm just going to run the query. That's the next step, just to look at the data. All right, and when I run it, you can see here are all the names of the clubs. And what I'm looking for is any name that has the word club in it, right? So I want Radio and TV Film Club, right? Chess Club Global, Culinary Arts Club, right? So those are the names that have the word club in it. The rest of them I don't want to see. So I'm going to go back to design view. How do I pull out the ones that have club? So I'm going to show this to you in a couple of stages. So I'm going to do it wrong. Right now I'm going to do it wrong. So if you're watching the video, which clearly you are, don't type this in yet. Or you can and kind of come back and see how it works. So if I just type the word club, and this is why I don't press enter, because Access has IntelliSense, and so when it starts to recognize the names of things you're typing in, it's trying to help you. We don't want to use the club table here. I just want the word club. So I'm going to click outside the design grid, and then it puts the word club there, and it puts it in quotes because it's a string. Now when I run it, I get no results. Now if you were here in person, I'd say, why do you think we don't get any results? Well, I'm going to explain to you why. If I type in the word club into the design grid, then that's the only thing Access is going to look for. It's just going to look for C-L-U-B. I'm going to remove this. When I run it without any criteria, well, there's more than just C-L-U-B. There's other letters and symbols, R-A-D-I-O, and a comma and an ampersand. Those are all characters. Access doesn't know things as words. It just sees characters. Okay, so if I want to just pull out the word club, I have to account for all the other words in that field. I have to tell Access, hey, don't look at that. Just look for C-L-U-B. All right, so I'm going to come down here to the criteria line, and this time I'm going to type the asterisk, no spaces, C-L-U-B. Again, I'm not going to press enter because I'm not trying to get the club table. I'm trying to search on a specific set of characters. So I'm going to click. And what happens is it rewrites it as like, and it puts the quotes around it, star club. Okay, the like is supposed to be there. That's part of how the wildcard character looks. So now I'm going to run it. Oh, look at that. I got some results. I got 10 results. I'm actually supposed to have 13. I'm doing this on purpose. What you should notice here is, hey, I have Radio, TV, Film Club, and Culinary Arts Club, but I don't have the ones that have the word club in the middle. In this case, club was at the end of the string. All right. So when I'm going to go back to design view. When I put that asterisk in, it's saying, it reads it like this: find every word, letter, number, character, space, C-L-U-B. The wildcard character looks for every character that it could find, but then ending with C-L-U-B. So if I wanted to find club anywhere in the string, in the field, I would have to do club, star, club, star, club, star. Sorry about that. Let me back up. I'm going to delete that. We'll write it in again. Star, club, star. Okay, click outside of it. And so now you can see it says like, star, club, star. So the way it reads it is find every letter, character, number, space, C-L-U-B, letter, number, character, space. So the wildcards are accounting for everything except for the 4 letters you're typing in this case. So you want to use the wildcard character when you're looking in a field that has multiple characters in it. If you're looking for a single word or an exact match, you can type that exact match in. I'm going to run it, and you can see I get 13 results, and I'm supposed to have 13 records, okay? And now you can see, here's the one, Chess Club Global. That wildcard took care of the chess and the global, and it's just looking for C-L-U-B. And then it also will find all of them at the end as well. All right, I'm going to go back to design view. We want to sort this in descending order just for fun. So we're going to run it, and you can see there's my final list, and I'm going to go ahead and save that query as wildcard query. Okay, close the query, and so you should have 8 objects in your database, 2 tables, 5 queries, and 1 report. All right, so you're going to go ahead and exit the database before you turn it in. That is a really, really important piece to remember. In fact, I'm going to show you this in my downloads. So I have these files saved in the downloads. I have the instruction file, that's this guy over here. I have Access Query Part 1 start file. That was the original file I downloaded. Then I resaved it with my name. So when a database is open, it's just a review, the record locking file will also be open. You can see that this database ends in .accdb. This has the same name, but you see it has a little lock here. And it has a file extension of laccdb. What happens is when you have a database open and you're working on it, Access will create this second file to make sure that no other human being can have their hands in the database at the same time that you are working on it. So there's nothing in this record locking file. You can see it has 0 kilobytes. All my information is actually saved in the database file. When I exit the database, I'm going to exit this. Oops. Oops. Down a little bit because I have like a little window up. When I exit this database, watch what happens right here. Watch this file. I'm going to exit this and that file goes away. Now the database is clean, it is closed up, and now you can turn it into Canvas. So the most important thing to remember is always exit out of your database before you turn it in. Hopefully this helped you walk through this assignment, and this will prepare you to complete the follow-up Access Query Part 2. Thank you.